Lesson 61, chemical mixture problems, type B. All right, we've talked about chemical mixture problems a few lessons ago, and those were type A problems. In type A problems, we have two solutions that mix to get a third solution. All right, so the ones that we've talked about before, we have two solutions that mix to get a third. Now, in these types of problems, we're always given the amount of the final mixture. All right, so we're given the amount of the final when it's two mixtures mixing to get that third solution. All right, in these problems, in these type B problems, we're going to be given a solution, and we're going to add something to the solution, or we're going to take something away from the solution to make a mixture. All right, so in type B problems, we're given a solution, and in these problems, we will add something to it, or we will take something away from it to make a mixture. All right, so we're given a solution, we're going to either add to it or we're going to take away. Now, in these problems, you have to be careful because you can either be given the amount of the first solution or you're given the amount put in or taken away. So you need to determine what information you're given. All right, so in these, you can be given the amount of the first solution or the amount given or taken away. Okay, so you're going to be given the amount of the first or the amount that's given or taken away in these problems. All right, there's 5 steps to solving these problems, very similar to the first type of problems that we're going to do. So let's look at these 5 steps and then we'll look at some examples. All right, so step 1. We want to draw a chart and fill in the given information. All right, so we want to draw a chart and fill in the given information. The second step is to choose variables for unknowns. Some of you are familiar by doing this by writing let statements, or you can just choose your variables. The third is to complete the chart. Fourth, you want to write your equations. And finally, you want to solve the equations and label the answers. Okay, so we want to draw a chart and fill in the given information, choose variables for the unknowns, complete the chart, write your equations, and then solve your equations and label your answers. All right, let's look at some examples. We're going to do these from your example sheet, so go ahead and get out your example sheet. And let's look at example number 1. Example 1 says how much water must be evaporated from 100 gallons of a 10% brine solution to get a 40% brine solution. Okay, so let's draw our chart first. All right, we're going to draw our chart just as we had done before. We have our amount. In this case, it's going to be number of gallons. We have our percent of our solution. In this case, it's percent brine. And then our last column is going to be our gallons of brine, or our total. All right? Okay, keep in mind in these problems, we start off with a specific amount and we're taking something away. Now in this, we're given the amount that we start with. All right? So we are given 100 gallons of a 10% brine solution. All right, so this is our original solution. We want to know how much water is going to be taken away. So our second box is going to be the water that is being taken. And then down here we have our final mixture. All right. All right, our second step is to choose the variables for our unknown. What are we looking for in this problem? Well, in this problem, we're looking for how much water needs to be evaporated. So our variable is going to represent water. All right, so we're going to let x equal water. All right, so if x is our water, now we can complete the chart. All right, keep in mind that our first two columns multiply to give us our last one. So we have 100 times 10 gives us 1,000. Now, in our water, we're taking water away. Our column says percent brine. Well, there's 0% brine in water. So 0 is going to go in our percent brine, and x times 0 is 0. All right, and then our final, we're taking away the water from the x. So we have 100 minus x, 10 and 0. We're ending up with a 40% brine solution. So that's going to go in our final percent. And then 100 minus x times 40 is 4,000 minus 40x. All right, so our equation is going to be what is in our total column here. We have, because we only have one variable, we only need one equation to solve. All right, so our equation is going to be 1,000, and that's going to be equal to, because we're taking away 0, so we don't need to show that we're taking that away. It's going to be equal to 400,000 minus 40x. All right, now we're just solving for our x, solving for our amount of water. All right, so we're going to subtract 4,000 from both sides. 1,000 minus 4,000 is 3,000, and that's equal to negative 40x. And then we're going to divide by negative 40 to get our amount of water. Keep in mind, your amount is in gallons. So 3,000 divided by 40 is going to be 75, and that's 75 gallons of water. And that is our final answer. So we set them up the same way by way of a chart. We're going to be solving a little bit differently. All right, let's look at our second example. All right, our second example says, when Frank and Mark finished milking, they found that they had 900 pounds of milk that was 2% butterfat. How much butterfat did they have to add to raise the butterfat content to 8%? All right, so we're adding butterfat. So let's start by setting up our chart. Okay, we have a chart. Keep in mind, your first column is always amount. All right, in this case, we're working with pounds of butterfat, so this is going to be pounds. Our second column is the percent of butterfat. Okay, so we have percent of butterfat. And then our third column is going to be pounds of butterfat. All right, we always start with our whole solution. What did we start with? When Frank and Mark finished milking, they found they had 900 pounds of milk that was 2% butterfat. All right, so how much milk did they have? They had 900 pounds, and the percent of butterfat that it was 2%. Okay. All right, so this is our 2% butterfat solution. Now, we want to know how much butterfat they have to add. So we are adding butterfat. So we're adding a butterfat, and we're going to end up with a final mixture. we want to know how much butterfat. So we're looking for the pounds of butterfat. So our variable that we have to choose, we just have to choose one variable for our one unknown. I'm going to let x equal butterfat. All right, so x is going to equal our amount of butterfat. Now, we are adding how much butterfat? We're adding 100% butterfat. So our percent of butterfat is going to be 100. Now, we just need to fill in the rest of our chart. We need to complete the chart. All right, so if I have 900 pounds of 2% butterfat, I multiply across to get 1,800 pounds per butterfat. Then I have x times 100 will give me 100x. Now, we are adding pounds of butterfat to our already 900 pounds. So down here, we're going to have 900 plus x. Keep in mind, we want to have an 8% butterfat content when we get down to the bottom. So 8% is going to go down in our percent butterfat for our mixture. And in order to solve all the way across, we need to do 900 plus x times 8, which is going to give me 7,200 plus 8x. Okay? Now we're going to use this column here to make our equation. All right, so we have 1,800, and we are adding to that 1,800 100x. That's 100% butterfat. And it should equal 7,200 plus 8x. All right, and we're solving for x. We only have one unknown, so we only need one equation. All right, in order to solve for x, I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. And I'm going to subtract 1,800 from both sides. That's going to give me 92x equals 5,400. And in order to solve for x, we divide by 92. And x is going to be 58.7, and that's 58.7 pounds, or pounds of butterfat. Okay. All right, you have one more example on your example sheet. I want you to go ahead and try that one on your own, and we will come back and check it in class.